Amber Riley, singer, songwriter, producer, activist, sister, daughter, and self-proclaimed girl from around the way. From right here in the South Bay, the possibilities of Amber's success were endless. Amber Riley has defied the odds, persevered countless adversities, and continues to reach new bounds each day. From humble beginnings singing in living rooms, neighborhood churches, to Broadway stages and for presidents and dignitaries, Amber Riley's rise to fame and continued relevance in culture is a testament in what happens when each takes stock in our own greatness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to California State University Dominguez Hills Presidential Lecture Series, Finding Me with Amber Riley.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Come on, good evening, good evening, good evening. So I'm gonna take a point of pleasure. This is a special event for me because this is a good friend of mine, right? And so my name is Nnamdi Okorafor. I am the Executive Director of Strategic Engagement and Resource Acquisition here at our illustrious Cal State University Dominguez Hills. Where are my Toros at? I will be your MC for this evening's events for the 2022 Fall Presidential Distinguished Lecture Series. Now in its fifth year, the Presidential Distinguished Lecture Series was established by our wonderful President, Dr. Thomas Parham, to showcase Cal State Dominguez Hills as a place where important and consequential issues of the day become the topic of critical discourse. The series has tackled athletes and political protests with gold medal Olympian Tommie Smith, environmental justice issues with Secretary of Health and Human Services Xavier Becerra, and representation in media with Univision anchor Ilia Calderon. During COVID-19, the series served to entertain us, thanks to a performance and discussion with world-renowned jazz musician Kenny G and multimedia artist Tony Scott. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the person who will be added to this distinguished list, my friend, my sister, actress and singer Amber Riley. A Southern California native who grew up in Gardena and La Mirada and has family roots in Compton, Amber rose to stardom on the hit Fox television series Glee, where the powerful voice and natural acting skills were shown. Her success on Glee led to starring roles in The Wiz Live and The Little Mermaid Live, plus an invitation to compete on Dancing with the Stars. She won, by the way. She won. Moving from screen to stage, she has performed in a number of theater productions. Most notably, her performance in London West End production of Dreamgirls earned her the Laurence Olivier Award for Best Actress in a Musical. Let's give another round of applause for that. In 2020, Amber released her debut EP titled after her new moniker, Riley. The 6-track project served as a reintroduction to the woman and artist that Amber has become. More recently, Amber starred on Lifetime's Single Black Female, which brought in over 5.1 million viewers. In recent years, Amber has been vocal about her mental health, her problems with anxiety and depression, and her journey towards self-discovery and wellness. Amber joins us today for what I know will be an honest and engaging discussion on a subject that is far too long has been taboo: mental well-being and self-care. Now, with further ado, I look forward and I again ask you to put your hands together to invite the most incredible, iconic, beautiful voice, amazing sister, friend, Amber Riley, everybody.
Testing, can you hear me? I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much, Nnamdi. You know what, Nnamdi, I didn't know what you did. I just saw those words over there. Like, I'm really impressed, bro. It's a long title. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Parham. I am honored to be here. I am an LA native. I'm from Compton, California, grew up in Gardena. Woo woo! Yes, I am an actor, I am a dancer, I am all of those things, but my purpose in life is to share. My purpose in life is to heal. And one way that I do heal besides singing is to share my story. At the end of 2019, depression and anxiety came to a head for me, and that was the beginning of my mental health journey. I've spoken about it in churches and schools, and I've talked about it online, and honestly, there was so much shame that came with it. I was so embarrassed because I felt like, especially being a Black woman, that I was supposed to have it all together. We often are made to feel like we should be walking around carrying the world's burdens. But I am happy to say that here in 2022, I am in such a great place in my mental health journey, and it has been very up and down, and it has been very hard, and it has been very tough, but it's been equally rewarding. It's been equally eye-opening, and I hope today that I get to bless each and every one of you. I hope today that you walk away with something, if not only just not to feel lonely, and not to feel like you're the only person that may be going through what it is that you're going through. So again, thank you so much for having me, and I am so excited to sit down and have this talk. Thank you, guys. Which side you want me on?
You can take this side. Now, she hates when I do stuff like this, but I met Amber when she was, 10, 11? I used to do a camp, a church camp, and there was this one girl that would just be yelling, and then we was like, you know what, she can probably sing, so we put her up in front. And since then, she has been an incredible partner in just advocating for the less fortunate, to being a voice. As she said, her purpose in life is healing. And I promise you, if you ever in the room when she sings, you ain't leaving the same way, right? But I thank you again, Amber. At this point, I would like to take an opportunity to introduce and to bring to the stage our incredible leader of this incredible university, Dr. Thomas A. Parham.
So good evening.
Yes.
Now, Nnamdi, did you say Amber could sing or she could sing? All right.
Hopefully the latter. Hopefully it's
Don't get it twisted. That's actually what my daughter did. Welcome to the Toro Nation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A little bit about us, because lots of people don't know it's that place kind of over there in Carson, but don't get it twisted. They're doing some serious stuff. We are a little under 16,000 students right now. We are 87+% students of color. That sounds like an applause line to me. We have a lot of our students who are first generation, a lot Pell eligible, and in the midst of all the academic journeys, we try to create an environment that allows folk to just thrive. Personally, I believe, the psychologist in me, that each of us and our students is, to me, a seed of divinely inspired possibility. And that if you can nurture it in a proper context, it'll grow into the fullest expression of all they are supposed to become. So we try to provide them with the drops of intellectual nourishment and the nutrients and the values that are important. We try to provide them with just enough sunlight of affirmation, sometimes a little bit of shade of critique, and then we just stand back and watch them grow. And in combination with our illustrious faculty, with our staff, and even some of our student peers, we turn out some pretty fabulous students. Several of which, by the way, if you haven't seen, got profiled in the Long Beach Press Telegram this week and in the Daily Breeze. out of the South Bay because we have turned out not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5. Somebody say 5. Somebody say 5 up in here.
5.
We have 5 mayors, right, that now lead cities in the Southland. Los Angeles, Long Beach, Compton, Carson, and Hawthorne, all led by the Toro Nation alumni. We are in the house and representing, so we are delighted by that. Anyway, just a little about the Toro Nation. So
Brag on it, brag on it.
that's it. So the great Algerian psychiatrist Frantz Fanon argued that particularly for folk of color, even as he was talking about African descent people, he said we should answer 3 critical questions. Who am I? Am I who I say I am? And am I all I ought to be? So who am I? A question of identity. What is my nature, my essence, my character? In your introduction a moment ago, you seem to distinguish between what you do as an actress, singer, whatever, and who you are. So I want to start with talking to the audience about who is Amber Riley? The people they see, because they see the glam, they see the glitz, they see the glitter. But what do we want the audience to know about who you are at the core of your being?
Wow. I've had such a journey figuring out my identity. For a long time, I put so much of my identity in my talent because I didn't believe that I was beautiful or worth anything else. I felt that the only time people paid attention or the only time people praised me was when I was making them laugh or when I was making them cry from singing. But I came to learn through my mental health journey that I am not what I do. I am not my job. And there's a difference between my job and my purpose. And I am more my purpose. So Amber Riley is a healer. That is who I believe that I am. Everything that I do that I feel is worth something in my life is to help and heal others. So that's who Amber Riley is.
One more time for the healer. So as we talk about this journey toward wellness, I'm interested even as a psychologist by training, how would you define wellness in your life?
I feel like wellness is wholeness. It's taking care of yourself wholly. I think that's mental. I think that's spiritual. I think that's physical. And that is also a question that I've sat with for a really long time. But I think wellness is really taking care of not just the outside, but also making sure that you take care of the inside.
Yeah. So you're looking at a multi-pronged definition of wellness that looks at the mental, the physical, the spiritual, the occupational, all that, okay. So as we think about childhood and growing up in Compton and Gardena and other places, I'm aware that each of us grows up with what we sometimes refer to as a level of residual baggage, those experiences that we carry with us into adulthood, that in some cases not only form and shape the person that we become, but also exert influence even as we run into adult-like situations that we sometimes relate to in those childlike ways. Talk to us a bit about any of the residual baggage that you might carry in your life that is impacting your journey before and now, even moving toward this journey toward wellness.
Wow. So I believe, it's so funny, I have a song on my EP called Hood Living. And it says, hood living brought a whole lot of things, but I loved it. It brought trauma, of course, hardship. There are things that I went through as a kid that definitely shaped who I am now. But it also made me extremely creative. I remember our lights got turned off once when we were younger, And I just remember me and my sister used to get the flashlights, and we used to play games and like draw with the flashlight in the air. I don't know if you guys ever done that, like where you kind of like make the flashlight go fast and then you can see like the residual light after. Everybody did it, see? But those kind of things opened up my imagination. And those are the type of things that I remember that made me become a writer. It's how I was able to create short stories. It's how I was able to create scripts and create characters and write these songs. A lot of the baggage that I had growing up was, self-esteem. A dark-skinned black girl from Compton, California, with hips wider than a little bit. There wasn't a lot of me that I saw in magazines and on television. And honestly, when you don't grow up really seeing yourself, or when you do see yourself, those images that you're seeing are not being called beautiful. They're not being praised. They're usually being, demonized. So I internalized a lot of that, especially walking into Hollywood and knowing that I was going to have to defy odds if I was going to make it at all in this industry. So I think that the trauma and the baggage that I have carried turned into fuel for me. It's like now at this point I identify that it's there, but I've kind of reconstructed its purpose in my life.
So the challenges in life became the fuel to move you forward.
I believe so. I think we can either let challenges stop us and limit us, or we can let it fire us up. And it's easier said than done. I understand that the fight is easier said than done. Fighting is hard. It's not easy, but when I finally figured out what my purpose was, I knew that I needed that fight. I understood that the things that I went through in my life, the things that I go through in my life, that's that part of that reconstructing what's happening. I know that those things come for a reason. And I decide, okay, what is this teaching me right now? What am I learning from this in this moment? How is this helping my purpose?
So every moment becomes a teachable moment as well.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. No, that's real. That's real talk. So let me pick up on one of those themes you talked about, even with the flashlights, being able to imagine. Imagination, for lots of people, is that road that takes them from where they are to where they want to be. What did you imagine?
Oh, man.
As a kid? I mean, just free associate for a moment with us and talk about what you imagined.
My mom will tell you, so I knew that I was going to be this fancy rich lady. I just knew it, okay? My mother, Amber, go clean your room. I don't need to clean my room. I'm going to have a maid. What are you talking about? I don't need to learn how to drive. I am going to have a driver, lady. Like, that was the life that I imagined was nowhere around me. I didn't know anyone that lived that way. I knew no one that lived that way. I didn't know anyone that had a driver. I didn't know anyone that had a housekeeper. I didn't know anyone that was dripping in diamonds and all. Not to say the material things are all the things, but being that young, that's what looked like good living to me. That's what looked like wealth. And I just knew that where I was not where I was always going to be. So I imagined the life that I have now. I imagined that.
How many folk can relate to imagination? Where we at? Yes? By the way, we should take a point of privilege to say the same mother that I'm sure looked at her and went, child, you better get in and clean that room,
Yes.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is actually sitting right here with us today. Please say hello to Amber Riley's mom.
Hi, Mama.
Welcome to the Toro Nation.
That's my bestie, y'all.
My bestie, all right. So, what was it, Amber, that pushed you to be open about what you were going through in your life?
Honestly, my therapist is actually what pushed me to share. My therapist once told me pain shared is pain divided. And I know that was deep, huh? I wish that I thought of that myself. I didn't. But that hit me really hard because I was very ashamed and embarrassed.
Ashamed of what?
I was ashamed that I was weak. I was ashamed that I had to be vulnerable. I was ashamed that I wasn't the strong one anymore. I was ashamed that I had to be on medication. At the end of 2019, like my anxiety and depression got very physical. I was suffering migraines. I was having heart palpitations. I suffered my first panic attack in public, where my sister literally had to come and pick me up off of the floor in a store. And I didn't know, because we weren't really taught about mental health and, mental disorders or depression and anxiety. We're just taught depression is sadness and you'll get over it, Anxiety is you being dramatic. So when I finally got to a point, thank God for my mother and my sister who were living with me at the time, seeing my struggles, they're like, I think that you're dealing with depression. And I fought against it for such a very long time. And when I finally sat down and spoke to my doctor, they recommended a psychiatrist, and then, of course, I got a therapist. And me personally, I really don't believe, you should have medication without a psychiatrist and a therapist. I think they work in tandem. It's the help that I needed, and I know there's such a stigma around, medication. But for me, I needed to clear room in my mind because I just had none. Every thought was negative. Every thought that was ruminating in my mind was a negative one. And medication really helped free up that room so that I can actually sit in therapy and dissect those thoughts and reconstruct them. I went through cognitive behavioral therapy, which was a lifesaver for me, because you never think that you have to be taught how to think. But I had to be taught how to think. So there was so much stigma and embarrassment around going through it that it's like once the secret is out, that secret doesn't hold any power anymore. So once I started sharing, that shame just disappeared. And I didn't feel alone anymore, because what I started finding is that there were so many people going through the same thing, waiting for someone to say it. And as soon as I said it, it was like all we could do was talk, and it was every conversation was healing, every single one.
That sounds like an applause line right there, don't it? But there are a couple things you mentioned that I want to expound on that I think are good teachable moments for the audience, and particularly our students in the room. One you talked about was the vulnerability and the notion of not only being vulnerable, but trying to understand how we can understand what real strength is. Most people believe that strength is measured from the zero line forward in the positive direction. What you illustrate in your space is that strength is not measured at the zero line forward, but you can never find out how strong you can be to your moment of greatest vulnerability, right?
Wow.
That's what that story really tells us in that space. I also gravitate to the notion of the cognitive behavioral therapy. So the psychologist in me is loving that, because the fundamental lesson there is the way you think influences how you feel and ultimately how you will respond to your reality. So what you can't change sometimes is the circumstance you're confronted with. What you do have control over ultimately is the way you process it and the way you think about it.
Yes.
And once you got that technique down, your conceptualization of the world changes, dark to light. It changes, bad to good. It changes lots of things. So that's a powerful message, I think, for our folk.
Yeah, it literally, what you said, dark to light, is exactly what it was. It was like my eyes finally opened up, and it was like, wait a minute, that isn't my reality. this is my reality. I can literally change the way that I see things. I can't change the circumstances like around it. I sometimes can't control the environment, but I can control how I react to it, and I can control how I think about it.
Yeah.
And that what from dark to light is exactly what happened. I literally felt like I finally stepped into the light, and I can see, because everything before that moment just felt dark and heavy and just hard. Everything just felt hard. Everything felt like a struggle. Everything felt like a push and a pull. But when I stopped, and another point I wanted to make, I stopped fighting against the depression and anxiety. And I know that sounds crazy, but when I stopped fighting against it and I started letting it inform things in my life, those anxieties were alarm bells for me. There were things in my life that I was not paying attention to. Yeah. And one thing your body is gonna tell you, it's gonna tell you what to do. It is always going to inform you if you take the time to pay attention. It's like a check engine light. Most of us see a check engine light, and those of us would say, okay, even though this is probably gonna cost me a lot of money, I'm going to take this in and I'm gonna get this checked out. Because if I don't, and I keep looking at this check engine light and I keep ignoring it, in the long run, it's gonna end up costing me more in the long run than it would have if I would have just taken it once that engine light came on. My anxiety is my check engine light. It literally tells me, okay, Amber, there's something you're not paying attention to. What's your diet like? Are you getting enough sleep? Is your environment clean? What's your thought process? There are certain things in my life that I now know that I need to check to make sure that I'm paying attention to when those anxieties arise.
So in seeking the help, was your therapist your first stop? Or did you rely on friends, other places? I ask that because if you look at the psychological literature, particularly as it relates to, people of African descent and other people of color, we oftentimes don't seek out traditional forms of help like therapy and psychiatry. We'll oftentimes go to community resources, family, other folk to do that.
Yes.
So was that your first stop? Was it your second, your third, your fifth, what?
It was my third stop. Family and friends were my first stop. Honestly, like I said, my mom is like my best friend, so she's the person that I spoke to. And then my sisters, I'm really close to my sisters. My oldest sister is a mental health professional. My best friend is a therapist. And so I was talking to them because I thought that everything that was going on with me was physical. I wasn't aware that it was mental also. So in talking to them, they gave me advice, and then I finally went and spoke to my doctor. And when I had that conversation with my doctor, and they recommended, psychiatrists, and then, going to a therapist, because what I've gone through in my life and what I've experienced in my life, a lot of people won't. Being on a hit television show, finding my identity in that, having that taken away, never dealing with, the issues and the trauma, but now being on display for the whole world to see and having to be okay and having to hear everyone's opinions about who you are. The only black girl on the show, the only fat black girl on the show. There was a lot that I had taken on. And there was a lot that I didn't lay down. So, having those friends, that family that's on the outside looking in, that really know you and are honest with you. If my mom never said, I think you're dealing with depression, I never would have thought that. If my sister wasn't honest enough to be like, girl, you had me running out of the shower coming to get you because you had a panic attack in the liquor store. Go see somebody. I probably wouldn't have. So my first stop was definitely my family, and then, everything, the rest of the help came after that.
But ultimately got to the professionals with family support around you.
Yes.
So even being able to work with them, that is an important complement and supplement to what it is you do professionally. So wonderful for that.
Yes, I'm really grateful. I can say that publicly. Thank you, Mother. Thank you so much. Thank you, because everyone doesn't have that, you know. Everyone doesn't have that support system. I could have been judged and been embarrassed, but, you know, thank you for encouraging me to do that.
And there's another lesson, I think, in the answer to this last query, in your vulnerability. One of my favorite books is by an author, John Hope Bryant. Does a lot of community empowerment work, but he writes a text called Love Leadership and how to lead in a fear-based world. Because lots of folk relate to the world through fear.
Yes.
And they motivate other people through fear. The sky's gonna fall, so you better invest in me, because if you don't, blah, 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 right? But what he teaches in the book is that vulnerability is power. And the vulnerability that you were, right, courageous enough to display empowered you in ways that you hadn't thought might have, because beyond the fueling the anxiety was also my whole soul is now laid bare to the whole world, and what will they think, right? But the vulnerability came and just washed that all away. That's an important lesson, I think, for our audience, too.
Yeah, it's not easy either, because it doesn't feel good. Like that first part of vulnerability, but once you're vulnerable and then somebody accepts it, oh man, it feels absolutely amazing, and it is so freeing. And it may not feel good, and it may feel, just the thought of it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, it's uncomfortable, because it's like you said, you're laying it all bare. And the fear is that someone's going to take advantage of it, or they're going to hurt you, because again, you're vulnerable. But the payoff is so much greater than that, because you will always bounce back, even if you're hurt.
And you got to be comfortable with the discomfort.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, that's the residual baggage we sometimes talk about, because when a child is uncomfortable, it's, you know, but you now have adult skills to deal with discomfort in a way in which you might not have as an 8, a 9, or 7-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, that's powerful for our folk to learn. So let's talk about the career. So what impact did the sharing, right, and the individual crises you have on your career, do you think?
Honestly, I really believe that it made me a better actor. It made me a better writer, made me a better singer, because now I have this superpower of vulnerability. And in the thick of all that I was going through at the end of 2019, I actually was writing my EP. Mm-hmm. And I wrote this song called A Moment. And I remember being in the studio, and I cried that whole entire session. Mm. And those are some of the most powerful lyrics that I think that I've ever written in my life, because I wasn't embarrassed to cry in front of people. I didn't cry for a really long time, let alone cry in front of people. I literally never cried until I was in therapy. Into this blubbering mess that I am now, I'll cry at the drop of a hat, y'all. I'll be at home and be like, I just need a good cry. Let me close my door so my mama don't hear me and think something's wrong, you know? I found it's so cleansing, and I remember, you know, the lyrics of the song goes, faith ain't got no hell in it, hell ain't got no timing. It just hits you like a bullet. And right now, I need a moment alone with my soul, because I can't stop these thoughts. I need peace. That's exactly where I was. I may not be able to control what comes, but I have the faith that I'll be able to overcome it. And I deserve to be vulnerable in this moment and find my peace. Mm. I never, ever would have found that if I had not gone through what I went through.
Yeah. Vulnerability is power. So what are some of the key wellness attributes that make a difference for you in your daily life?
Man, taking a moment in the beginning of my day to meditate, to visualize what I want my day to look like, what I want it to feel like. Journaling is a really big wellness point for me. Sometimes that's how I get all the negativity out of my brain. I just write it all down, all my fears, everything that doesn't feel good, everything, you know, the things I don't want to happen. and I kind of get them out of my head, and then I'm able to just look at what it is that I wrote, and I'm just like, oh no, that's not gonna happen. Like, it once you put it in front of you, you're able to kind of like see you may be overreacting just a little bit, Music is such therapy for me, whether it's gospel or R&B or rock music where I'm dancing out. I need to be angry in this moment. And I need to, music is a really big, there's not a day that goes by that I'm not listening to music or singing. Prayer is absolutely a big one for me. Faith is a big one, a big staple in my life also. Those are things that I can't, I have to go through those things every single day.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. Were you able to identify allies in your journey? Life is always full of allies and alligators. And we teach folk to stay away from the alligators, align with the allies. Where were your allies?
My allies were my friends. I realized that I have a very great village. I mean, they're here now. My best friend just popped up. She's in the back. I didn't even know she was coming. Homegirl Stephanie's here. My friends were like, hey, we hopping in your car and we going to your talk today. Like, I have an amazing village that were there for me and are there for me because, make no mistake, my life is not perfect. I have not arrived to some level of, consciousness where I don't ever deal with depression or anxiety or imposter syndrome or self-doubt or low self-esteem. But I have such an amazing village that empowers me, who love me. And I hope that I am the same way for them, because the beautiful thing that we have is reciprocity. Yeah. Where it is that I may drop the ball, they are there for that with the alley-oop. They're right there. Akelina Kenya is one pillar in my life. Your daughter, she is a pillar in my life. I can always go and talk to her and call her and be like, hey, okay, I don't understand this. She got a brain of a computer. Sis, I don't understand what's going on in this government. Break it down for me, please. She's someone that I can come, that calms my fears, someone I can speak to. Nnamdi is a pillar in my life. I can always go to Nnamdi and he's going to tell me the truth, if nothing else. In love, my best friends are my village, my pastor, my village, people that I can confide in.
But an important lesson, I think, for us all, to surround yourself with people who don't bring that toxic energy to you.
Yes.
But who bring nothing but love and support. Who identifies, yes? All right. We've got just a couple minutes left in this segment. But what advice would you provide to our students here and our village that's in this room? What words of wisdom do you want to leave them with today on your journey toward wellness and healing and wholeness?
I think my biggest takeaway from the last couple of years is you're not alone. You're not alone in what you feel. You're not alone in your thoughts. I guarantee you, if you take the time to be vulnerable with someone to share and try it out, even if you go back to your dorm rooms, your apartment, home, talk about some of the things that you're going through with someone that you call your friend. And one or two things are going to happen. You're going to find out that they're probably a good source of support for you, or you're going to find out that they're not your friends. And then you'll find somebody that is, but continue to be vulnerable because it really is a superpower. I always like to say, child, you ain't special. When it comes to the trials and tribulations that we go through in life, we're not special. And that's a good thing. Yeah. That's a good thing. When we find your village, and I know that's really hard too for a lot of people, finding your village, but it doesn't have to look like what you see on Instagram. It's not brunches and clubbing and dressing up and being cute and get them. It's not that. It's those deep conversations when y'all are nitty gritty, ugly, just woke up, crust on your face, and you saying, "Girl, boy, listen. This is what it is that I'm going through." Find those moments, because those are the important moments. All those other things, the glitz, the glamour, those are nice things. They're additions to what can sometimes be a humdrum life. But the things that really matter, the things that you can take stock in, are those moments of vulnerability where you can identify with another person and see yourself so that you know that you're not by yourself.
Yeah. Wow. So we're a little over time in this segment, but presidents get to take a point of privilege, so a little free association now. All in spontaneity. You broke out in song just earlier, right, in the conversation, just with a lyric that went, So I'm gonna try to give you 3 prompts.
Okay.
And tell me what lyric comes to mind, and you just hum a few bars or something. That'd be great.
Okay.
So, what gives you joy in the morning?
Mama, you know I love you. You know I love you. She brings me joy.
What challenges your sensibilities?
Challenges my sensibility.
What lyric comes to mind when you think about life that just challenges your sensibilities?
I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to see what's on the other side. I'm ready to cry and just let it be. I think waiting to see, having faith and waiting to see what's on the other side.
Yeah, wow. All right, two more. I'm way out of time, but 2 more. Well, you're carried away now, right? Y'all know we loving Amber Riley today, ain't we? Right? You have been so unapologetically black and woman and just fearless, right? When you think about the cultural being that you are, what lyric comes to mind?
Ooh. Oh, man. Okay.
We're talking to the cultural you.
Telling these tears go and fall away, yeah. May the last one burn into flames. Freedom, I can't move. Freedom, where are you? Yeah. Freedom, cut me loose. I need freedom too. I break chains by myself. Won't let my freedom rot in hell. I'ma keep running, 'cause a winner don't quit on themselves.
Woo! And lastly, when you talked about your sense of identity, it wasn't the actress, the singer, the whatever, it was, I'm a healer. So in that healing, what brings you peace in that healing? What lyric comes to mind when you think about peace and healing?
There's a lyric that I'm thinking of. Maybe it's one that I'll write. 'cause I love you. When I see you, I see me. You're not alone. When I feel you, I feel me. Let's walk it out, talk it out. We can just be. I love you. When I see you, I see me.
That is so African-centered in ways in which you may not even know. There's a principle called consubstantiation. It means elements of the universe are of the same substance. So when you sing a lyric that says, when I see you, I see me, and promoting love, and that brings you peace, that's about respecting the dignity and humanity of every member of the human family. It don't get no better than that, y'all, right? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Amber Riley. Give it up!
Thank you.
So now the faces on the audience say, we tired of having the president ask some questions. We want some questions too. So we're gonna try to move into a little bit of Q&A, right, with the audience and give the audience a chance to ask some questions. Now, we got a bunch of folk, a little bit of time, so I need quick questions, and we'll try to go for it. Namdi, we good with that? All right. What question do you have for Amber? We got some microphones coming to you, so we got one coming right here. Introduce yourself. Stand up for me if you would.
I'm Janiyah Perkins Jackson, and I play for the women's basketball team here. I'm just a young girl that goes through a lot, and I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, so I'm here just playing basketball, chasing my dreams. So I want to know, like, when you're down, what do you do?
First, I've literally written a list of things that bring me joy. I call those my bag of tricks. So journaling really helps me. That's a big thing for me, writing. A pen and a paper can take you to a place that a car can't even sometimes. And I sometimes take a pen and a paper and I create the world that I want in that moment. And that really does help. Music really helps me. Singing at the top of my lungs, even if it's off key. Dancing, being silly, just turning on some music and dancing in my room. Anything that kind of gets me out of that space. It's not necessarily escapism. Gratitude is a big one for me. When I find myself complaining, even if I have the right, even if things really are hard right now, I start to think of the things that I'm grateful for, even if they're small. I just took a breath. I am so grateful that I just took that breath. It's like called mindfulness. I'm grateful for this cold sip of water that I'm drinking right now. I'm so grateful for that. When you incorporate gratitude in your life every single day, it really does put stuff in perspective.
Okay, thank you.
What a blessing. You see an example of what cognitive restructuring looks like. And being able to take the pain and the whatever in the day and transform it into something. So now the challenge becomes the blessing, even in the smallest, littlest things. That's where power resides. That's beautiful. Let's go here. Introduce yourself if you would. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Deborah Strahan. And actually, I've been a background actress. I was on Glee, actually, as a background actress.
Amazing.
When y'all finally went to New York and graduated. So I was out there on New York Street and, my car, and y'all were dancing around. It's been great fun. Been great following your career. And I wanted to know if, I know you've been on the Disney Christmas special usually every year. Are you doing it again this year, or what other projects you might be coming up with? Or?
So I'm actually working on my second EP now. I don't know if I'm allowed. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this yet because I don't know. There's a show that I just did that I just won. I believe that it already aired. I believe that it already aired, y'all, Lord. Lord have mercy, that NDA is ironclad. Hope they don't get me. Don't nobody tweet, don't put this out till 9 o'clock tonight, okay? Yeah, I literally am right now on the producing side. I want to be producing content and creating, my own television show. I've said no to a lot of things because it's just time for me to do my own thing. I recently just did an amazing docuseries called The Black Beauty Effect that's out right now about, Black women being a kind of a roadmap for a lot of the trends that are out right now. It's about these amazing women that started these beauty lines and kind of disrupted the status quo in the beauty industry. And, my ups and downs in the beauty industry, in Hollywood, being a Black woman, having to fuss with my hair and makeup and take my stance so that I have autonomy over the way that I look and present myself to the world. So those are the kind of projects that I really want to do. But thank you so much for your service on Glee and working and acting with us. I appreciate it.
Okay, we got a question back here, and then we'll go up here. Let's go there.
Hi, I'm Sylvia. I'm currently procrastinating an essay, and I would like to know, along your mental health journey, especially after journaling, did you notice over time, like a light flickered, and the dots started to connect, and things started to make sense, and I think you mentioned that your mindset shifted to like more positive oriented thinking. Did that happen like just out of the blue at some designated point, or did that just sort of over time you start to slowly notice?
You're asking if journaling kind of helped connect the dots for me? Was that your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sort of in a way.
Okay. I think I understand your question. I feel like over time, when I first started journaling, I was over it. Like my therapist, kind of made me do it. And I was kind of over it. Like I thought, not that I thought it was, we think of journaling as like, Dear Diary, Moesha, right? But when I started getting some journaling techniques from her and practice, made me consistent and created patterns for me, then I started kind of seeing my world kind of open up. And it started getting more into write the vision down and make it plain. And I started seeing the things that I was writing down happening right in front of me. But I feel like that's because I wrote it down and it became like attached to my soul. So everything that I saw, I kind of like projected it. So the way that I moved, the way that I spoke, the decisions that I made were connected to what I was writing, if that makes sense. Because now, so I'll give an example. If I'm writing, I want my own television show. Now I'm doing the things, even if I'm not cognizant that I'm doing those things, I'm doing those things to get my own TV show. Even if I'm not thinking in that moment that that's what I'm doing, it's connected to me because I wrote it down. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And I feel like, but yes, it did open my eyes after a while, continuing that practice.
Those that don't know, there's a concept called NOMO. NOMO being the power of the spoken word, and the ability to speak it into existence allows your mind to just keep channeling on that mantra. That sounds like NOMO to me. So, let's go here.
Oh, here. Well, my name is Sierra Moore, and this is my second year here at Demise Hills. I wanted to know, because you are a creative, right? And I love to write and perform myself. What is your element where you create? I know like there's a specific place where it feels like home away from home when you're in your solitude.
The studio is a big place for me. Getting outside of my room, because sometimes like my room is more like my safe space. Everybody that walks in my room like automatically wants to go to sleep. So I don't really get much work done there. But I have to kind of force myself to get out of my environment. Sometimes I'll just go outside, get a blanket and sit, on my lawn, take my journal or listen to music, and I just let my mind just float. And then I go into the studio, and my friend Corey, who's one of my writing partners, he's here. We'll sit and talk for 2 or 3 hours before we even start a session. So for me, it's getting out of my environment. Some people, it is their room. It is their, their safe space. But I feel more creative when I feel like I'm leaving to work, if that makes sense, as opposed to being in my little cozy room.
That's perfect.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we got 2 last questions. Point values are double. So we're going to go. All right, we got 3 hands. Where are we seeing Namdi? We had one over here. Okay, we're going here, there, and then First Lady got the last one. Go. Yeah, we got a microphone right here. Go. Uh-huh.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Lara. I'm Rayleigh.
Hi.
So I'm here, one day stay there.
Yes.
Okay, my question is, in which moment you find your point for decide singer and writer in this industry? In which moment you believe it, you have a dream, something inside? Because I have a dreams, I figure out my dreams, but sometimes I have a scare me.
Your dreams are supposed to scare you. They're supposed to. They're supposed to challenge you. I've always, for some reason, I've just always known that I was going to be a singer and an actor. I think it's because I really just didn't like people telling me what to do. So I knew that I wasn't going to really work for anybody. And I knew that I knew that I had to march to the beat of my own drum. I always feel like I was just an individual, kind of a little bit of a weirdo, which I was perfectly fine with that. But as time has progressed, I've had to let my dreams scare me and realize that that's just a challenge. And I still grapple with, I have big dreams. Like I have really, really big dreams. And I still grapple with identity issues and feeling like I deserve some of the things that I really want for myself. So you're not alone in that, but you can still work toward what it is that you want and do it scared.
Yeah, if your dreams aren't scaring you, you aren't dreaming big enough.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go here.
Do it scared.
Well, real quick, here we go.
It's Jessica Scott, and I'm
Hi.
a first-year presidential scholar here at CSU.
Yeah.
I know that's right. No, clap louder for that. Yes.
And my question is, when in the conversation did you find out your true friends between your fake friends? Because that's something I'm dealing with a lot lately.
You know what? Honestly, for me, there's no such thing as fake friends. And this is what I mean by that. I am a person that learned to love people where they are and leave people where they are. I've learned this. I've learned my boundaries with people, and I've learned their boundaries, and I've learned mine. I've learned how far I can go with someone. Okay, I can't talk to you about my triumphs because you're dealing with a lot of insecurity and you're trying to make me feel insecure. So this is not something that I can talk to you about. We just gonna go to brunch, girl, and dish. I've just learned that different people are in different phases in their lives, and not everyone is for me. And that doesn't mean that they're bad. That doesn't mean, and some people can't wish you well because they don't wish themselves well. Mm-hmm. So I started paying attention to my nervous system around certain people. Why am I anxious when I'm with this person? Why do I feel like I have to dim my light when I'm around this person? Why do I feel like I can't share good news with this person? Pay attention to your nervous system because your intuition is not going to steer you wrong.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another shout out for our presidential scholars, by the way. Loving them. All right, so we're really over time, but we had one back there in the orange, one brother here, and First Lady got the last one. Go. Introduce yourself if you would.
First off, my name is Carol. I'm a huge fan of you, Amber, and you're my inspiration to everything. Crap, now I'm crying. How did you define yourself in music? Because I'm getting back into music right now after being away from it for almost 6 years. How did you break out of toxic relationships in your life? Most importantly, how did you define yourself in music?
Ooh.
Yourself in music.
Of
course.
Thank you for that.
Music has been my greatest inspiration, but it's also been my greatest challenge, right? It's such an interesting question. How did I find myself in music? I got lost in it for a while because I felt like people wanted me to be a certain type, a certain look, in order to receive the music that I was putting out. But that reconstructing, it's not about the amount of people or the praise, but it's about the people that connected to the music. I found myself in music by understanding music's purpose in my life. Music's purpose in my life isn't always going to be enjoyable. It's not always going to be for people to dance. Music's purpose in my life is to heal. So as long as every time I'm going in that studio and I'm being honest about where it is that I am, I can't miss. Music will always be that identifier as long as I'm being honest about where I am, good, bad, or ugly. Don't let anybody take music away from you. Don't let anybody take it away from you. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not good. Don't let anyone tell you you're not good enough. Music is yours. It's all of ours. But it's yours. And when it's yours, nobody can take it away. Find yourself through the lyrics. And be honest. Good, bad, or ugly. Be honest in those moments. You'll connect to it. And you'll grow from it. And then you're going to probably look back at these songs years from now when you get in your Grammy or something and be like, wow, those songs I wrote back then were terrible. But it's a process. I've almost quit music. Every other week I'm like, I quit, But I always come back to it because it's mine and I'm connected to it. So connect with it, respect that gift that you have. Respect it and love it and grow it and nurture it.
That's beautiful. Let's go here, brother. Introduce yourself real quick.
My name is Akili. Hi, Amber.
Hi.
You were talking about earlier that it's kind of difficult to break into an industry where everybody sees a certain demographic. And I'm in a music production program. I want to get more into, I do behind the scenes work like songwriting and stuff, but I want to get more into like maybe making movies and being maybe an actor. I don't really know yet, but I want to be more upfront. And I really appreciate honesty and like interviewers when in interviews from places like this. And how do you break the status quo of the entertainment industry and keep pushing for your own identity?
And the stereotype of the typecast, yeah.
Yeah, I was I've been typecast a lot. I think when you are an individual and when you have specific dreams for yourself, you have to be prepared for a lot of rejection. You have to prepare yourself for a lot of rejection. You have to be prepared that you're not good enough. You have to be prepared to be told you don't fit a certain mold. But boy, oh boy, when you hit, it's gonna hit. Because there was nobody like Beyonce. There was nobody like Rihanna. There was nobody like Michael Jackson. There's nobody like these people. And when you just have to remind yourself that you have it. You have to remind yourself, and you have to keep yourself going. And I'm sorry there's not a better answer than that, but that really is what it is. It's consistency. It's creating good habits. It's working on your craft. It's focus. It's not letting rejection skew your view of what your goals are. Because honestly, the world is so big. There's space for all of us to do what it is that we're doing. There really is. Hollywood is a very big place. And when you hit, it's gonna hit. But for now, you may suffer a little bit of rejection. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that because the status quo is gonna move together. And when you're moving individually by yourself, it's gonna feel like you're moving a lot slower when they're doing what it is that they do. But you just stay the course.
Got to keep on keeping on. Our final question comes from our presidential spouse, the love of my life. Right, dear?
Thank you. So for those of you who did not know me, I'm proud to be the spouse and partner of President Parham. Amber, thank you so very much for your honesty and your authenticity about your wellness journey. Could you share with us the process of how you identified and found a psychiatrist and a therapist who obviously has been a tremendous help?
Yes. So I first went to my doctor, consulted with my doctor, and my doctor actually recommended some psychiatrists after arguing with her for a very long time about speaking to someone. And I found the right psychiatrist for me through just having conversations. It took me a while to find a therapist. I'm going to be very honest. It's not a one and done type of thing. A therapist is much like a relationship. You have to find the right person that is for you, someone that you're comfortable with, but also challenges you. And honestly, I had to kind of figure out what it was that I wanted out of therapy before I found a therapist. And I found what I wanted out of therapy by meeting different therapists and was like, okay, that's not gonna help me. This person is not for me. I think I went through 4 by the time that I found the person that was with me, and I was with my therapist for two years. And I'm now looking for a life coach because I feel like I've come to a place where now I'm looking more toward the future. But yeah, it wasn't easy finding a therapist at first, and it may not be easy, but when I tell you that it is so worth it to invest in your mental health, it is so worth it. The lessons that I learned and the tools that I got from my therapist literally saved my life. So it's a process. And it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. And thank you for that amazing question, because I think people need to hear that.
As we get ready to close this segment out, there's several themes I think that we've heard that we want to make sure that we both summarize and reinforce. The first is Circumstances are places people come from, but not necessarily who they are at the core of their being. So the journey to wellness was really trying to find the difference between what you did and who you are. I think the being able to admit to vulnerability is one of the ways in which she found strength. Who heard that theme tonight? Yes? All right. And that vulnerability not only created healing, but it also created empowerment, right? We heard a theme that talked about the notion of defining for yourself, self-determination. And so that even as folk want to typecast you, even as folk want to make you up in certain ways, it's like, no, I have to be able to have some standards and set the threshold for what my own brand of excellence looks like and insist on that it's okay to be me. Who heard that tonight? Yeah. We heard that in the journey that life is a struggle. And in struggling with depression or anxiety, that I had to seek help. But the first place I went was to my friends and family. The first place I went was to my mother. The first place I went were to those folk who I thought were the allies, I think we called them. And so it wasn't until first or second, but third, that I found the therapist. But as you just reinforced, right? It's shopping for a therapist is like, you gotta get it right. Like any important relationship, because that is where you are the most vulnerable. That's where they're gonna challenge. That's where you're gonna push back. But they gotta be comfortable enough to push back on you, right? That's what's important in that, and being able to even seek that care. Primary care physician refers you to psychiatry, that also gets you to psychology, so that you have a treatment team, as we call it, right? That surrounds you with that support, most of which is available through primary care, right? And through your health insurances there. So you gotta make sure that you insist on that kind of piece rather than being relegated to someplace else, right? That may not be as beneficial for you. We also heard a theme about the music. What does the music do? Maurice White, Earth, Wind, and Fire, argued that music is the language of the soul. And what you heard Amber talk about tonight is music has been the language of your soul, even as you treated us to those lyrics with just the spontaneity of those, impromptu words, right? It's about bearing your soul to other folk and letting them know this is how I express the real me in that space. But also that the journey to self-care is a journey that is worth taking. Peace is worth the time it takes to find it. Yes. Whatever time it takes. Who heard that tonight? Yes? And finally, right, I heard, and I quote my good friend Cornel West on this one. Cornel writes in his work, he says, we should never allow misery to have the last word, right? What was so powerful about this story, and I thank you for being our 2022 Presidential Distinguished Lecturer, is you never allowed misery to have the last word. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ms. Amber Riley. Give it up.
Hey, everybody.